Hello, everyone. This is the James Drew Show. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I want to tell a story, but I'm going to pose the title is in the form of a question. Does God really care if we as individuals sin? Now, obviously, it's a general policy, and it would seem to be common sense that if there is a God, it really does seem to be his primary function to care if we sin. That's what we've been taught he's all about. The guy with the gavel up there waiting for us to give him a reason. Um, but I've decided to break down what we really know about God. And one of my favorite things to do, the Bible says that God made us in his image, but there's also this thing we that God works in mysterious ways. If God made us in his image, then we should be able to relate to him. We should be able to understand his motives. We should be able to understand he's God. So his image to me would be more of a metaphysical thing, emotional, spiritual, mental. To me, that means he thinks like us. He's if we really break down, if we want to go ahead and break down what we know about God. First off, um, the first thing we want to understand one of my biggest things is I've always associated my relationship with God with my relationship with my real father, with the man that made me. Um, and I've been told that's not necessarily the right thing to do, but that's to me I think it is because what God is to us, what God is to he is our father. He made us. He made us in his image. I take on a lot of my parents. I'm sure I share my parents' personality traits, probably right down the middle. As a species, I think keeping in mind that God has no mental ailments, he would have no emotional ailments, but the basics are right there very clearly. Um, what do we know about God? Well, he's been a parent for 6,000 years. Okay, I mean, at least if you want to just decide to go ahead and see the human species as only being 6,000 years old, uh, scientifically that's not likely. But if we're going to go with general Christian philosophy, the human species is 6,000 years old. So, assuming that we're going by the biblical God and the biblical timeline, God's been a parent for a whopping 6,000 years. Could you imagine? How would you not lose your mind raising a problem child for 6,000 years? Um, we've not made it easy, that's for sure. Um, so, right, pretty quickly, God decided he's going to have to set down some ground rules. The first of those being, don't mess with me. The first five are just don't mess with me. I'm God. I brought you into this world. I can take you out. So don't go running to other gods. Uh, you know, I'm your dad. You put me first. Then we get into more human things like be respectful to your parents. And then finally, by the sixth or seventh rule, these are the top 10 things that piss God off. Don't kill each other and don't take each other's stuff. Um, so those are about 7 or 8 of the top 10 things that really piss God off. So going into a story, at some point, God's just looking over and going to myself, what have I done? These kids are assholes. They can't get anything right. And Jesus comes up. He says, what's up, Dad? What's bothering you? Look at these guys. And what am I going to do? He's like, well, we talked about what we're going to do. We knew that this was going to be a problem. I've got we came up with a plan. Give it a couple of thousand years. It's 10 minutes. Now, you know what? I've had it. I'm just going to drown them. Drown him. No, 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 no. Dad, we talked about this. We went to meetings. You know, relax. We've already talked about this. You don't go drowning the entire species every time they piss you off. You know, we talked about putting that tree in the middle of the garden. We knew it wasn't going to work out. We gave it a try. But, I mean, is this really the best thing to do? Yeah, you know, I'm just not feeling it. Well, I'll tell you what. Just give me one family, Jesus says. Just give me one family and all the animals. I'll have a guy build a boat, and you can drown the rest. Kind of a grisly story so far, but it is what it is. That's how the Bible tells it. I'm just simplifying. So, go ahead, drown the entire human race. Naturally, springs back up. They go back to their old tricks. Not quite as bad. A couple of generations later, God says, all right, that's my favorite ethnicity right there. But I'm going to run them through the ringer. They're going to wander from their spot to a really nasty spot. Eventually just become subservient. And then I'm going to let them go. It's going to look really good on me. And they'll escape. They'll reestablish their nation. It'll be in the worst possible spot, the most natural invasion spot. They're going to come and go. And we'll go from there. Well, at some point, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's something called a dispensation between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and God changes his mind quite a bit. People have joked that he took anger management classes. Obviously, that's just being silly. He's God. I acknowledge that. But he things change over thousands of years. And by now, after 6,000 years, I've decided that God's about, like my dad, about 60 years old. He's a veteran of this. He just does his thing. We're making our, the world is global now. We're basically just one kid. Instead of being 1,000 kids, 1,000,000 kids, 2,000,000 kids, 4,000,000 kids, 1,000,000,000 kids, we're just one kid. We're all one world now. And God's cool with that. When we were one world before, he's like, I'm splitting the languages. I'm gonna, I gotta split things up a little bit. Nope. We're gonna go with this because God's retired. He's an old man. He's not having it anymore. He wants to he's gonna go out and grow with the neighbors. Have Jesus over on Sundays and grill with the neighbors. Hey Zeus, come on over. I'm having hamburgers. Didn't like him at one point, but 6,000 years, we're cool with the neighbors. Zeus keeps his crap off of his lawn, and he's not that offended by it. So, who is God now? Well, I kind of look at it as he's, like I said, he's about 60. He's retired, semi-retired. And he just doesn't concern himself with a lot of things that, like, he might have before. He's tired. And I think he feels that we might even be willing to just let us make our own decisions. So, here's my scenario. He's out grilling. He's got the neighbors over. And his cell phone rings. It's his ex-wife, Lucy. Hey, did you hear what James Drew said? He says you're a really lousy God, and you're not making a lot of good decisions, and he feels that you don't care about him and that you don't care about the world. And God just kind of yawns, flips his hamburger, and goes, well, it's a good thing that there's entire institutions out there that venerate me. Otherwise, I might take it personally. Well, what about this and what about that, Lucifer says. It's like, I'm not that worried about it. He's, he hardly pops up on my Facebook feed anymore. He does, he calls me when he wants to. They call me when they want to. How's your boy Donnie there? The guy that I told you can have run America for a while. I heard he's got himself. Well, I don't want to talk about that. Oh, you don't, do you? Hmm. Well, I have better things to do than worry about what one person is doing. So when you've got something relevant, you want to really look at things with the checks and balances. Give me a call. But right now, I've got my kid over. Um, I've got the neighbors over. You can call me later. So, does God care what we do as a species? Sure. Does God care? At the end of the day, we are what we are. There's this thing that we Baptists call we're sinners. That means we're human. Basically, we we're limited creatures. We do what we're designed to do, which is not be God, which is make mistakes, which is be fallible. That's what it is to be human. So does God flip out every time you get frustrated with him, every time you get frustrated with the world, every time that you um, make this? No, he doesn't. I don't think he's up there with a gavel anymore. Maybe he was at some point, but I think after 6,000 years, um, he's kind of a parent eventually decides to let their kids make their own mistakes. Um, and find their own way. That being said, I mean, that's what America has to do. That's what the world has to do. Um, so the answer is yes, he does, but he does care if we sin, but only as much as it hurts us. So that's where I stand with that. Have a good week.